Hello everyone, this is Prashant. So I have created one data engineering project which I am going to showcase in this video. So this project focuses on processing patient health data. So client is giving us patient health data which includes some important parameters such as heart rate, blood pressure and body temperature. So let me show you the sample data. So this is a JSON file which is given to us by client. It has patient ID, heart rate, blood pressure, temperature and time stamp. So when we create any project or in our company, we usually get data from client. And then we also get the requirement that what sort of business values which we are trying to derive from these data, right? So we don't have to worry about that part, that what we are trying to build up, that what we are trying to build up from here, right? We only have to focus on the technical parts, and the business inputs are usually given to us by the clients. So let me go back. So this is a project detail, and so build a scalable real-time data pipeline for validating, transforming, and analyzing patients' data, then storing the results in BigQuery. So it says data pipeline. So let me show you the data pipeline. This is how it looks like. So basically we have an input file, input JSON file, which is going into a GCS bucket. Once we have the file in a GCS bucket, what we are doing is we are using that file, importing that using the Pyspark code and doing some transformation on that. Once we have the transformed data, then we are writing that data into a BigQuery. This all process is taken care by DataProc. We submit our job through DataProc and then we get the final result. So this is the complete data pipeline, how it is happening. So let me explain you. So basically if you see that this is the data we have, and on this data we might have to do some cleanup, right? So this all input is given to us by client. So let me show you the P file which we are going to use in this case. So this is the P file, right? We are trying to create this Spark session, and let me show you the main function and then I will explain you one by one what's happening in this. So this is the main function which says process data, right? And this is how we are reading the main file, JSON schema, and this is source file, right? Once we have this main source file, then we are taking that df and passing this into a function called as validate df. What is this function doing? This function is basically pulling out invalid records, right? If we see, so this is the criteria on which the invalid record is being pulled. So again, we don't have to worry about this. Okay, client will give us this data. Client is saying, so whenever you find that heart rate is greater than 40 and heart rate is less than 200, along with these things, then please, that records are only valid. So we are saying that these are the criteria. Once this is checked, if this is valid, then there is a column which is being made called as is valid. Give that column a value true. Otherwise, give that false, right? Then we are doing a filtering. Column is valid, true. Then we are creating a data frame, valid records, and we are creating one more data frame in valid records when this value is false. So using this function, we are getting two data frames, right? And how to check whether this data frame has some value or not? We are simply taking a count. If the count is greater than 0, it means the invalid data frame has some records. Then what we are doing is we are trying to write that data frame into a GCS bucket, right? So if there is any invalid record, we want that data into our GCS bucket. This is what is happening here. And now this is our main data. We are doing some sort of calculation on this. If you see, the patient ID is repeating in this case because patient may be visiting the clinic for regular checkup, right? So we are aggregating this data at patient level and that taking the average heart rate, blood pressure rate, and temperature rate, right? And same we are doing again on that data frame. We are trying to take the standard deviation on all those three columns, and then we are joining both the data frame here using patient ID. This is the final data frame which we have. Now we are creating one more column which is risk category. Again, the input has been given to us by client, where we say that if average heart rate is greater than 100, then put that patient into a high risk category. Likewise, we have these categories, and at the end we are trying to write that data into BigQuery table. So here we can see temporary GCS bucket. So whenever we write data after processing, then that data is first dumped into a GCS bucket, and then from there it is pulled into a BigQuery table, right? This is what is happening. And this is how we are calling up a main function. So if we see, we have seen one thing here, that is log pipeline step. So this is nothing but a cloud logging function which help us in tracking that where our code is going to fail, if it is going to fail, right? It helps us in tracking the whole code, right? So if we see, we are importing this cloud logging module, right? And this we are making this function, and now we are calling this function every time at every step. See, read raw data, then we are calling this function, right? Again we are calling this function. So these function help us in keeping track that where our record, what is happening when we submit a job, then what is happening at each step, right? This is what happens when we put this function at every place. So our Python file is created, and then we have this variable defined, we have this session created. So overall I have given you the gist of what this Python file is doing. This Python file is reading the data from GCS bucket and then dumping into a final table. So this Python file is used for the processing function. Now what we do basically, we go to the DataProc cluster and we submit this job. So we have created this job and given the input that Python file. So let me tell you how to do that quickly. See, this is job is running, right? We can simply click submit job, and here we can do Pyspark and give the Python file, whichever Python file is the main file, and then we can create job, right? This is how we can submit the job. Once that job is submitted, our data will be returned directly into the BigQuery. I have already submitted the job, so you can see that this is a health data patients insights. If you see, then see the Python file. So at the end, we have given this BigQuery table ID, right? If you search this, at the top, we have defined this. It says Tem Prashant health data dot patient insights. And this is the same table we are talking about, right? And we have this table. So the data is being pulled from a GCS bucket. Then we have input the Python file, DataProc job is submitted, and then we have the table in the BigQuery as an output. This is a table. It has the risk category column which we have created in the calculation, in the final calculation, right? So yeah, so this was the overall summary of the project. So when we have the data, everything is usually told to us by the clients that these are the business value which we are trying to expect from these data, right? And then it is on us how we are going to define that complete architecture. This is the architecture which we have defined, that we have to put that into GCS bucket in a JSON format, and then we have to create this Python file. So this is something which we have to think. Logic is given to us by client, right? The thing. Then we have to implement, the inputs are given to us by clients, then we have to implement that using logic. This is our transformation which is happening in Pyspark, right? So yeah, that's it from my side, and I hope that, and I have uploaded everything on my GitHub, and you can go and read the Python file there. You can go and see this complete repository. So yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you so much.